Hello everyone, how you all doing? Welcome back to Alex and Irons, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing which players will remain at West Ham United in the sad future that we get relegated to the Championship. Now first of all, I just want to preface this video with I'm quite a positive person. I don't think we'll be getting relegated this season, but I've seen so much discussion online of which players will stay, which players will go, and what's going to happen, in the likelihood that we do get relegated. Obviously at the minute we're out of the bottom three, 2 points ahead of Spurs, and we are 1 point behind Nottingham Forest. So there is a good chance we stay up, but this is just a video of me explaining my thoughts on who might leave the club and who will stay and what's going to happen. So I will show you the tier list in a second. Before I do, if you guys could please drop a like, comment and subscribe. Your guys' support has been crazy over the last few days. I've really appreciated it. And then you guys also went out for the comments as well. It's been great to kind of discuss with you and talk about all things West Ham in the comments. I even have fans from other clubs getting involved, especially in yesterday's video about the current relegation race. So as you can see, here is the tier list. I've got stays, gives us a year, loan, sold. And also in this tier list there are some duplicated players and players that aren't here anymore, like Paqueta's down here, and there's a few others. So I have put them in positional order. So that's how this is going to work. So I've got goalkeepers and defenders, midfielders, so on and so forth. So yeah, it's a pretty basic tier list, not going to lie. I've not really thought about it too much in terms of the ins and outs of who, there's not like many different things. I didn't think there could be that many other variables. So Alphonse Areola. He's getting on a little bit now. He's been here for a while. He's on high wages though. I'm going to say Fons goes. I think Fabianski, another quick one, he'll be gone. Just discuss those two. I think they've been here for so long. They've done a lot. I just think it'll be the wages thing for Areola. I think he's like getting on an age, but he's not at that age where he can say to himself, oh, I can just drop down, a league. I don't think he's there yet. What I would say is I think he has fallen out of favour with the French national team. So maybe that will be him going, do you know what, I've done my time in the national team. I love West Ham, I like living in London. And maybe that will convince him to stay one season in the Championship. Because on paper, if we did go down, we should be very likely to go straight back up. There shouldn't be a scenario in which we don't go instantly back up into the Premier League. Fabianski, for me, he doesn't play now. I think we'd rather give Finley Herrick a go. So I would say he's definitely gone. Areola, I could be convinced to put it here, but just my heart of hearts and his high wages, he's going into the soul category, which is really sad. My years of supporting West Ham were sort of linked to Alphonse Areola. Not because I was an Areola fan, it's just I really became a fan of West Ham during lockdown, and he kind of joined not too long after that. So Alphonse has really been here throughout my entire time as a West Ham fan. Mads Hermansen, I think he gives us a year. Now, I know there's evidence to contrary that with the fact Leicester went down and he left to join West Ham. I think he gives us a year though, because I think he's just hit form now. Get back up into the Premier League. I think he's at the right age where a year internship wouldn't be too detrimental to his career, and if we don't go back up, he can easily go out again. I don't think he's going to struggle to find suitors anyway. So I would say he gives us that year. I think he would be the perfect Championship goalkeeper, and also, what I would say is that I think he's also now good enough for the Premier League. We've seen that. I think he's got 5 clean sheets this season so far. So there is an opportunity that he just doesn't stay, and that we unfortunately do have to say goodbye to Mads Hermansen. But out of the 3 goalkeepers, I would think the one we'd keep and be most confident about is Mads Hermansen, just because he's just been rather solid, and I think he's finally getting in good favour at the club, that he's finally settled in London. I'm not saying that is a big factor, and he's got to think about his career larger than that. But for me, overall, I just think he would give us a year. I think he would. For me, next up, Kyle Walker-Peters. I'm going to say he stays. Again, this might just be me hoping rather than any other logic. But, I think he can do it at that level. I think he would instantly become number 1 at that point. I think that would probably be part of the reason he'd stay, is that we'd say, look, you would be the absolute starting right back. And rightfully so, currently he's in the Premier League. But I think, for me, Kyle Walker-Peters is kind of on that level of just teetering between Championship and Premiership, and I think, he would be the first. Absolutely would stay. Wan-Bissaka. I don't know here. I'm going to argue on the fact of sold. I just don't think he'd be up for it. And that's really sad. Yeah, for me, I think he would just be gone. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how long he'll be here at the minute, even if he do stay in the Premier League. I think he's one of my candidates to weirdly not be here. Maybe after one more season, I think that'll be him done at West Ham. I don't know what that's just. It's a gut feeling more than anything else. Al-Hadji Malik Juf. It's between sold and loan. I'm going to put him in the loan category. I think because he is an asset to us. He's still young. If he wants to go and play at a high level, sure, fine. but let's keep him on the books for the longer term and just get him go for a season. I think that's likely. I wouldn't be mad if he stayed, but I certainly don't want to sell Malik Juff in the event we go down, because I do think we'll go straight back up, and I think this guy could be a West Ham legend and even further forward into the Premier League. Obviously, this would change dramatically if a big Premier League club came in for him. I think it would be game over, but we would be arguing a high fee. Like, this guy is not only his current quality, but his potential. You know, there's potential that he could just skyrocket into a top Premier League player. Next up, Oliver Scarles, he stays, and I really like this kid. I think he's great. I think he's just brilliant. I really hope he gets more minutes. It's a shame when you got Malik Juff in front of you, who's just getting better and better. But Ollie, after that mistake against Fulham, has just became infinitely better as a player. You know, he was there crying on the pitch. You know, it was a real make or break moment for him, where he could have just got inside himself and just never really came out and never really showed that quality. But for me, I don't know, I think he's deservedly, you know, worked his way back up into the squad. And yes, he doesn't always get minutes, but hopefully, if we can get, you know, Premier League safety, we can give Ollie some minutes, because he does deserve it. And I think hopefully next season, if we're more stable in the Premier League, you'll see players like Malik Juff get subbed off earlier to be saved in other games, and that will give Ollie more minutes. Because I do think Ollie Scarles is a decent squad player, and he's one of the better academy players that we got at the minute, for sure. Next up, Ezra Meyers stays. For me, easy. Again, just another player that's just going to get better and better. I don't know how we're going to utilise him going forward. I think maybe a loan next season, if this was a state. If we stay in the Premier League, I'll do this tier list again with where I think these players will end up anyway. But for me, Ezra Meyers, I'd like to see him in the squad. I just don't know where he fits, because he's more of a left centre-back in a back three in the under-21s, which we don't play, so we can't really go there. So we could have utilised him as a left-back, but then Scarles is ahead of him, and then there's Juff ahead of him. So maybe a loan if we do stay in the Premier League. But if we're in the Championship, absolutely one of the first names on the team sheet, either in a left centre-back role or a left-back role. But yeah, those two in a Championship, you know, partnership, I'm not mad at, you know. Caelan Casey, I'm going to loan. I think this is different to the Juff one. I think it's more to get him more experience, because I know that he's had a bit of a troubled time. I just don't know whether he'd be the sort of centre-back we want to be relying on in the Championship even. I think he's not good enough. Maybe off the bench, maybe he'd stick around, but this is just off my very small bits of seeing Caelan. I just don't think he's ready yet. When we were in the Premier League Summer Series last summer, it was very telling looking at his build that I just don't think he had it for the Premier League. He was getting bullied. He was alright on the ball in terms of his actual how he was using the ball, but he just didn't look like he had the build for the Premier League. And there's always the argument with Somerville with this, but for me, it's different for Somerville because he's got the pace. He can quickly break out away from the defenders and he can draw fouls, which is important. That's, you know, he uses his build to his advantage and to enhance his game, whereas Casey doesn't. And when you're a defender and you're getting bullied, it's a little bit different. So I'd say get him out on loan, give him some more minutes, like proper minutes. I think even if we won the Championship, he'd only be on the bench. Max Kilman, I think he's gone no matter what. I think his time at West Ham United is done. I made a video about this, if you want to check out on the channel. Just talk about Max Kilman as a player overall and kind of what happened to him and how, unfortunately, how he got in the situation. Mavropanos, the Greek god. I'm going to say, even though he's upturn in form, he gives us a year. I don't know whether this is just gut instinct, but I reckon he's enjoying himself at West Ham. He's going to become vice captain, and you might not like what I'm going to say later about our current captain. So I reckon he could stay at West Ham in the Championship, give us a year, and become club captain. And I think that might happen in this scenario, just because he's teetering, isn't he, between really good Premier League player to the top end of the upper echelon. And the issue is, right, I know as fans we're quite negative, but we're not going to sell everyone because that is just not sustainable. There will be players we keep on the books, even against their will, and even though they're not super happy, they'll be sticking around. I think Mavropanos just fits into that category nicely, but I do think he'll be up for the fight. He's shown it in a relegation scratch in the Premier League, and I think he'll do it for any division for us. I think he's just one of those players. John Claire Todibo, sold. He's gone. I think it was said by the club, wasn't it? There's just a few players that will just be gone in this scenario, and John Claire Todibo will be one of them. He's got too much of a high ceiling to be playing in the Championship. He's sort of past that age. He's sort of in that prime age, isn't he, where he can't really afford to spend a year in the Championship. He will be gone, and he'll be missed because he's been brilliant for us. And I think overall, just a really solid player for us, and could be going forward if we stay in the Premier League. I think we get to see the best of John Claire Todibo, but I think if we stay in the Premier League, we definitely will do. Axel Disasi will not be joining West Ham if we go into the Championship. I know it says sold, but I would have to make another slot And it would be specifically for Axel Disasi, which would be will not buy. So I just thought I'd put him in the sold category. Axel, solid player, just I think isn't going to be here. He doesn't want to be here for another championship. James Ward-Prowse, I'm actually going to put in stays, which I know is crazy. I think if we go to championship, Nuno won't be here. I could be proven wrong. Nuno might be here. I'd love Nuno to be here. We've seen what he can do in the championship with that incredible Wolves team. And I think he would build a similar incredible West Ham United team. But I just think at the minute, my gut feeling is Nuno would go, which would then allow James to stay. When it comes to James Ward-Prowse, I just don't think he's done enough in the Premier League in recent years to suggest that he is, good enough to get another Premier League move. So I think he would stay at West Ham. Again, I think the only issue is he has had a falling out with Nuno. And I'm not saying I'm a massive fan of James Ward-Prowse, but I think he'd be a useful player in the championship. And I think overall he would be a player that we couldn't say to him, we don't need you in this scenario, because all the players we need. I think midfield will be okay though as we go through this list. I think there will be a lot of players that we're sticking around. Like another one, Songutu Magasa, he stays. I don't think he's developed enough for a bunch of Premier League teams to come after him. I don't think we get the money we want for him. I don't think he can argue to us / the board that he's too good to stay in a championship fight. I think he will be here. Same thing with Mohamedou Kante. I think he'd actually excel in the championship and probably, begin to kind of show what he's all about. So, maybe if we didn't go up, he would go to a Premier League team. But this could be the breakout year for Kante if we go down to the championship. I do think Nuno likes him though. So I do think if Nuno stays, if we stay up, we'll be seeing more of Mohamedou Kante, and rightfully so. He's been brilliant. Freddie Potts will stay as well. Another great player in the championship. Did it at Portsmouth. It's become an even better player now with Premier League experience. I know he's had a rocky few weeks, but you can tell Nuno still liked him because in the Wolves game, Potts was one of his first subs, which I really like. I think we should be sticking by Freddie Potts. He's a young player who deserves a bit more love. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag myself down here now because as you guys can see the whole tier list. I think that just makes the most sense. So yeah, I'm not going to be in the bottom corner, so I will be blocking some of the names. I do apologise. Thomas Souček is going to give us a year. Now, there are rumours that this is Souček's last contract at West Ham, and I believe that contract has another year after this one, or maybe 2 after this. So if we're going to let him go anyway, let's just keep him. And I'm sure he'll be up for it. His last gift to West Ham is putting them back in the Premier League. I can see that. The story writes itself, doesn't it? And I think overall, if we can keep most of our midfield, it would be it would be pretty good. Because I think we are going to have some big casualties up top, and in defence we've got, quite a few. So to keep the most of that midfield, I think would be solid and useful. The thing about this midfield that we've got here, right, excluding James Ward-Prowse in this, is that these three, Magasa, Kante, Potts, they're all going to improve. So, even if we do stay in the Premier League, this is a really good midfield to have in terms of future. Souček there is like your older statesman leading the midfield, great. Obviously, we're going to make more signings as well in the Championship. We wouldn't just have no signings, we'd have to make signings. But for me, I think our midfield will be easily the best in the Championship. Edson Alvarez, sold. I'd really like him to stay if we were in the Premier League, no doubt. Like, he would be instantly one of my favourite. Like, I think him and Nuno would work really well. I think he really like that player with the crunching challenge. I'd really like to see a midfield pairing of Alvarez and Fernandes, but I just don't, in this scenario that we go down, not even a chance. I don't, is there even any point arguing there's a scenario where it happens? I just don't think there is. Orford stays. I don't know why he's not being used now in the Championship. He would be brilliant. He'd probably be an asset to us on the bench, but we just don't take him for whatever reason. So I'm going to say he will stay if we're in the Championship, though. There's obviously been a lot of discussion about his contract and sort of where he sits and what's going on there. But I will say that he will stay if we go down the Championship. And I really hope that's his breakout at West Ham. I will still go back to that Luton game, that goal he scored, and it felt like the beginning of something special, and then just injuries have, derailed him. And then all of a sudden, he gets loaned to Bristol, does really well, gets injured before the summer series, doesn't get used, and unfortunately he's kind of been in limbo ever since. I think he's gone out to loan to Bristol City, not really hit the ground running, unfortunately. That's an unfortunate story, but I think the Championship would be the perfect place for him, and hopefully would give him, the confidence he needs to push on as a player. I do think that he could start his West Ham career, even though it's a bit late, but it is kind of do or die for George Earthy now. Fernandes, I'd love him to give us a year, right? I'd love him to give us a year, but it's just not going to happen. He's too good. We get a decent amount of money for him. There is no relegation release clause in his contract. There is no release clause at all. So we would have to get good money for him. We can get good money for him, but it's still going to sting, isn't it? But yeah, he would be gone. Maxwell Cornet, I still forget we have you as a player, mate. Bless him, it's just never worked out, has it? Maxwell Cornet will be sold if you go down the Championship. We're probably loaned, actually, and he'll just go out on a free. I don't know how long he's left in his contract, but we have never been able to sell this guy. He's always just stuck out on loans. There's no problem in the conversation with Somerville. He's just too good for the Championship now. He's got to that point where he's just clearly found that level where he is just brilliant. And we need to accept that that's going to happen. And unfortunately, he's just too good now. I think there was an argument when he was at Leeds, he could have stayed for a year just to see them over the line. You know, that year when he came to us and he was at Leeds, he could have stayed there for a year, helped them out, got them sorted. But that's not going to happen now. He's too good. He's on the fringes of the Dutch national team. Not a hope in hell. Jared Bowen, as much as I love to put him in this gives us a year category, he's also gone. Sad, isn't it? It's really sad, this. But yeah, Jared Bowen will not be here. Again, I think he'd love to, like in his soul, I mean. But for his career, he's kind of got one big move in him. He's sort of at that age now where he can make one decent final move before all is said and done. But he needs to make that now if he's going to. Obviously, if he stays in the Premier League, I think he stays. I just think he becomes that West Ham legend. But if we do go down, unfortunately, I don't think he'll be sticking around at West Ham. Adama Traore, gone. He just won't be here. Just won't be here because Nuno won't be here. And he's sort of a Nuno specialty player, isn't he? So without Nuno here, I just don't see Adama being here. I think he'd do brilliant in the Championship, though. Tati Castellanos. So it tells me it's between these two. I don't think we'd sell him. I'm going to say loan, just because it's part of his whole thing is he really wants to get into the national team. And I don't think he's going to get into the Argentinian national team if he's in the Championship. So I think he'd be really pushing for a loan. Callum Marshall stays. Really struggling out in Germany at the minute, but I think the Championship could be perfect for him. We've seen him do very well in other divisions in England. So yeah, why not? Let's try and run him in the Championship. I think there is a player there, but again, similar to Earthy, it is kind of do or die for him now. Pablo, he'll stay. He's literally, I think it'll be brilliant in the Championship. Some people say he's the perfect striker for the Championship. Not too sure about that, but I would say that I think he will be an asset to us in the Championship. And finally, Callum Wilson. I'm going to say gives us a year. I think he'd be brilliant at, just being that old statesman similar to Souček. If you look at those 4 players that we'd keep, by the way, which I put one in every position, not on purpose. I kept a goalkeeper, defender, midfielder and striker. Those 4 would be brilliant at just being the leads of each section of the pitch. You've got Hermansen, Mavropanos, Souček and Wilson. And overall, I do think that wouldn't be the worst case scenario. Now, I do know Callum Wilson, especially only has a year contract. But there are rumours of an extension, being offered if we stay up. But I'd be giving him that extension anyway. I think he's proven to be just such a good character to have around the camp. So why not keep him? Would be my argument, I suppose. And yeah, for me, Callum Wilson easily deserves another contract at West Ham. And he's far exceeded my expectations. And yes, I know that he's scored goals, been off the bench. But that's what I expect him to do. And he's outperformed that. So for me, he'd be perfect to give us a year. So going from up the top, I think, why not? Let's do it that way. Alphonse Areola, Fabianski, Walker-Peters, Kilman, Todibo, Dezazi, Alvarez, Fernandez, Cornet, Somerville, Bowen and Traore will be sold. Diouf, Casey and Tati Castellanos will be loaned. Players that will give us a year will be Hermansen, Mavropanos, Souček, Wilson, and who will be staying will be Walker-Peters, Skulls, Meyers, Ward-Prowse, Magassa, Kante, Potts, Orford, Earthy, Marshall and Pablo. And yeah, I just wanted to make this video just a little bit of a fun one really, because I know I've been doing a lot of positive videos recently, but I just thought I'd come and talk about what if and the inevitability that we're still not out of the fight just yet. Again, I want to reiterate, this video wasn't about being negative. I do believe we will stay out, I do believe we'll be fine, but this is just about you know, that scary reality that we might be in a fight for the championship next season. And overall, I think that this is a relatively realistic take. Let me know if there's a few that are just a little bit out of, reality and I've messed up. But yeah, I think overall I've done a decent job. More importantly, guys, let me know in the comments down below who you want to stay at West Ham, who you think is going to be leaving West Ham, and make sure to like, comment and subscribe. You guys' support has been brilliant recently, and it really, really does mean a lot to me. So thank you guys all very much. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy and bye-bye.